Life. I'm so glad you could be here. If it's your first time, hello. I'm glad that you're here as well. So last week I shared my parenting aha moment, and you can watch that video here. I'll try to link it either here on the screen or down in the description box. This week I want to share the books that helped me as a parent learn to love bedtime and reading with my kids over the last several years. The I just really I kind of went over all that in my video, so go check that out and then come back. Or you can stay here just for the book suggestions. That's okay. For me, the books and stories that we choose to share with our family can help develop character traits that we want to see in our children. It helps build vocabulary. It gives them better comprehension. It helps them see tension and resolution and conflict, and how to do that both morally and immorally. Sometimes it's just the developing of that. The vicarious nature of a story helps us see our children, and helps our children see the world in a different way, in ways that they may not be exposed to in their everyday, day to day. The other thing is that it gives us better comprehension. I think one of the best things for my children now that they are in school is that their comprehension of class materials is so good. And I hope that it was because of these books. It might just be their brains naturally, but I think the reading stories that have more depth to them has helped with that. The other thing is, like, I just want us all, adults, children, to have an inner world of magic and imagination. I think one of the things that we lose sight of as adults is that inner child and the inner imagination. I know I've lost it over the years, and I just really want to make sure that my children know that it's okay to have that inner world still, even as they go into adolescence and into their teenage years and even into young adulthood, that like your inner world, your inner imagination, it's still vital to keep feeding that, because it helps us have hope and endurance for when things are not the best. But yeah, so getting started, I want to share just a few of the books that we've read over the years to help jumpstart you. So getting started, one of my favorite books that we've read over the years has been The Little Bear Treasury. So there are 3 books within this one. It is an I can read book. So the idea with these books is that it helps beginning readers, early readers. Each little story in here is there's a book, and then there's chapters within that book. There's pictures and illustrations and short sentences, big words. This has been a really good one, especially when they're really young. You can start something simple like this, where it's a well-known character. They learn to love it. It might take some time to get through it, and that's okay. But this is a good one, and then it can easily transition into an early reader when they're beginning to learn to read on their own. It's a familiar story, so they know what should be happening, and they can usually know the words enough and sound them out that it's a good place to start. I loved getting started here. Another one that kind of goes along with the animal is Paddington Bear. A Bear Called Paddington is the first book. There's lots and lots of books in this series. Less pictures, a lot more words. But for me, it was more about them listening to the sound of my voice. With a lot of these, there's very few pictures. They are honestly chapter books. And the thing to remember with a lot of the chapter books is that I would only read 1 or 2 pages a night, depending on their ages and how long they stayed awake. The goal wasn't how quickly and how many books. It wasn't about the quantity, but it was about the quality of the story and the time spent together. So a lot of these we had to purchase rather than use the library. We did try using the library, but when you're taking months to read a book, the library doesn't really like that. So a lot of these we did have to purchase simply because of the time constraint that we had with reading them. But even now, my boys still absolutely love Paddington Bear. They love watching the movie, It made the movies more enjoyable because they already had an established relationship with Paddington. They knew who he was, they knew his characteristics. It was a lot of fun for them. So we actually ended up getting a set. So we actually have 3 Paddington Bear books. We might have to revisit these now that they're a little older. It might be a little more fun and enjoyable. But it is a good thing, like when they establish relationships with the characters and you're continuing to read the same character, but the stories are changing, it makes it more fun for you as an adult. Another series that I have loved reading, especially to my younger child, is The Adventures of Geraldine Wilkins. Geraldine is a little woodland mouse, and how she goes through a whole year of her life from going from a young mouse to a middle mouse. So we start out with Geraldine in the fall, preparing for winter. Then we go with Geraldine through winter, into spring, and then into summer. I really enjoyed these. It's a very gentle story. A lot of emotions with growing up and dealing with siblings and friendships and just the growing up that can happen from younger years to older years. So this is a good one, very gentle. I enjoyed. One book that I try to read every once in a while is The Chocolate Touch. This book holds a special place in my heart because this is the book that I really credit with making me realize that I love to read. I love a good story. I was probably in about 3rd grade, and I had read this book, I want to say in 2nd grade, and I needed to read a book for my reading homework in 3rd grade. I'm like, well, I know this one. I liked that story. I'm going to reread this for my own homework assignment. And it made me absolutely love reading, to the point where my mom went out and purchased my own copy of The Chocolate Touch. It disappeared long ago, but this is a repurchase for my own children of the book. But yeah, this is the book that I credit with me loving reading as a child and starting me on the path of reading being a big central part of my development. So I don't know if my kids really love it that much, but it's one I enjoy reading to them. And I think the older they get, the more they've enjoyed the story. They didn't quite understand it, obviously, when they were little, but they like the idea of chocolate. So we are big candy people. So that's a good one. A good thing to revisit is books from your childhood that you absolutely loved. It's a reminder of who you are and what you enjoy as a child to share with your children. And not to say that all the books are amazing. We absolutely love Dav Pilkey's series. We love Captain Underpants. We love Dog Man. It's been a while. We kind of got away from Dav Pilkey because there's so many books that come out. There's Cat Kid. There's Dog Man, Captain Underpants. There's so many spin-offs now from his main series. The movie has helped. We really absolutely love the Captain Underpants movie that came out several years ago. My kids also love the Captain Underpants cartoon series that's out. We watch it on Netflix, but they really love it. Again, they've developed a relationship with the characters through reading the books, and now they can experience it through television, which they really enjoy. Another series that we're kind of working our way through, especially with my older kid, is the Little House on the Prairie series. So we've read several of the books so far. Right now, we are actually in the Little Town on the Prairie. So I think that's like book 4. I had no idea that there were so many books in this series, but they really enjoy listening to the development of the Western frontier. And I've enjoyed it. I only ever read Little House in the Big Woods and Little House on the Prairie. I had no idea that it continued on for 8 or 9 books in the whole series. So we'll get there, just slow. Like I said, these books take time, especially when we don't always get to read everything in a quick manner. A book that I really enjoyed reading, I had always heard about, but I had never read, is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This was probably one of the very first books that chapter books I attempted to read to especially my toddler at the time. This was the one where I realized this is going to take forever, but I enjoyed the story so much that it didn't matter to me. It was just the idea of reading something that wasn't a board book that I knew from memory. There's a few pictures in here. The writing style is very different because it's a classic, so it's a little bit style-wise, it's a little harder to read out loud at times. But it is a book that I just love the imagination of it. If you've noticed, a lot of these have fanciful characters, animals that talk, but it's just a good one that we've really enjoyed. I would probably need to reread it now that we're a little older, but that's the hope, is that they will be exposed to it, they won't be deterred by the writing style as they get older. Like, we've read this before. But I will say, my absolute, hands down, the most favorite books that we have ever read for me is a trilogy, and it is My Father's Dragon by Ruth Stiles Gant. And there are 3 books in the series. So My Father's Dragon, Elmer and the Dragon, and The Dragons of Blue Land. This is one that by far is my absolute favorite book that I have read with my children. The series, the story, chapters are short, there's pictures, the words are somewhat big, but it was a delight. Like, I loved the imagery, I loved the fancifulness of it, the unlikelihood of it. This was a good one, even for a 2-year-old, a year and a half year old, 2-year-old is when I read this to my youngest. Clear up now, even to now that they're a little older. This has been a good series that we keep returning to. And last but not least, our current book, which is The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This book has been really good. We're slowly making our way through it. It is the one that my younger son received for his birthday this year, and they asked for it. It's taking us a little longer just because we've had a lot going on this spring. Again, they're getting older. It takes time to get through books, especially if our bedtime routines are later now. So it's a little harder for me to read, but they are reading on their own, which I'm all about encouraging. So this is where we're at now. That's just a sampling of some of the books that we've read over the years. If you want more, please let me know in the comments, or if you have any other suggestions, please let me know. I'm always looking for book suggestions on more options to read to them. There's classics that they're classics for a reason, and everyone assumes that you have read them, but you probably actually haven't. So I really enjoyed going back and reading these books for myself over the years. If you wish to know more, please let me know, and I can definitely have that for you. But just things to remember is that kids need books with depth in them, even if they can't read them themselves. So I like to juxtapose things. I like to add things. So we have books like Captain Underpants that are fun and all their friends are reading, and we counterbalance it with books like The Wind in the Willows that are a little more cerebral. They take a little bit longer to get through. The stories aren't as easy. It's not as fun as the full color comic book, picture books, graphic novels that Captain Underpants is. But it's one of those things where it's, what are we enjoying? But we can say, like, this is a fun book that we know we love, and it's easy to get through, and it's got action in it. But then we also need books that are gentle and books that have quality and depth to them. Not to say that these don't have quality, because, I'd rather my kids enjoy reading for themselves, but I also want them to have, the language of a classic. So by introducing I believe by introducing more complex stories earlier, hopefully the better their comprehension will be later. That is one of the things that I do get a lot from our teachers, is that when they read something, they are able to understand what they've read. It's not so much that they're complicated, but they can pull out things from the text a little bit easier. And you know what? If nothing else in all of this, It's special time that you have set aside for your children, that they're hearing your voice and there's memories being made. And again, I can't always say that I always have the best attitude over the years. Sometimes I'm exhausted. I don't always enjoy it, especially when I'm trying to get into the rhythm of a book, especially like I said, the language can be very hard in classics. And I constantly am interrupted with questions or just, the impulse control that children can have is lacking even at bedtime, even when they're exhausted. Sometimes it's actually worse than the rest of the day. But I want them to know that like this is special time that we have, and I've enjoyed it over the years. It helped, like I said, it's helped me learn to re-love reading as an adult. And again, beyond the books that I have picked, I don't force my children to read. I want them to enjoy reading outside of school for themselves and for them to pick up books that they want to read. I don't force reading on them. It is always a suggestion. It's never a must unless it is for school assignments. I do make book suggestions for them to read on their own, especially now that we're starting to get where we are reading on our own. And I also, if there's a story you don't like, it is okay to put the book down and walk away. I don't want them to ever trudge through a book right now. That's something for as they get older and they have book assignments that they actually have to read for school and do book reports on. That will be a problem. But for now, outside of school, I want them to read for themselves, pick books that they want. I do make suggestions if they ask me, but there's always new books. There's always things that we all enjoy, and it's just a matter of what will interest them the most to keep going. I also don't put a time limit on bedtime. If once I have finished with my reading, bedtime's done, they're tucked in, they are allowed to stay up and read on their own, which now the younger one is finally starting to understand that's the process now that he can do it for himself, which is really, really exciting. And I hope that they gravitate towards these books as they get older. So I just really hope that some of these you can incorporate into your own family reading or pick up for yourself if you've never read them, especially classics. If you're looking for just a light read, there's nothing wrong with adults reading children's literature. You pick the books that you want to read. It doesn't matter the level. It doesn't matter if you're even reading to children or not. Just as long as we all enjoy the act and the story that is before us. So, and just in case you missed it, if you want a longer explanation, a more full explanation, please check out my video, How to Read to Kids and Enjoy It. And this is just a small sampling of some of the books we've read. It's not a huge selection just because it does take time, but thank you for being here. I hope you can take away some of this. And if you have any other suggestions, please leave them down in the comments below, and I will look at those. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next video.